which is just simply time, we're actually not super different if you keep the essay portion in. On the old test, the whole total time was about 3 hours and 45 minutes. The new test is 3 hours flat, but if you add in the essay, which is optional, which is the next one down, if you add in the essay, which is optional, they give you a 15-minute block for that, we're looking about 3 hours and 50 minutes. So it's pretty similar once you keep the essay in. The essay on this new test is optional, which means that were you to go in on one of the scheduled dates, like on a Saturday, right, early in the morning, pay the $45, you could decide, check the box. Yes, I want the essay. No, I don't want the essay, and it's totally up to you. Most colleges still aren't looking at the essay in terms of admissions. Some colleges say that it's preferred for things like scholarships, mostly Ivy League schools and things like that that really want a writing sample from you for scholarship purposes. It doesn't factor into your total score. It usually doesn't have much at all to do with admissions. Does that make sense? So if you're going to a school that you know is academically rigorous, like an Ivy League school, or West Point, or MIT, are you kind of seeing what I'm saying here? Like a really ritzy private school, you might opt to do the essay, and that's great. For our purposes, since we give every student in Idaho the SAT on April 11th in school, we make the decision for you, and you're doing the essay. Okay? So on April 11th, in this school, you will be doing the essay on that day. If you know you're going to a school that doesn't care about the essay, that might not be a priority for you. Okay? If you're going to a school like I just talked about that you think they will care about the essay, then maybe you want to prep a little bit more. I'm going to focus in here mostly, most of our test prep is going to be on the sections that are not the essay. Okay? Because that's where your score is going to come from. The points are also different on the new SAT. The old SAT was out of 2,400 because they had a reading writing portion, they had a math portion, and they had an essay portion. Each was worth 800 points. Okay? Those are individual section scores, and they made a total score, also called a composite score. Does that sound familiar to you? Your composite score is your total number amount out of 2,400. Okay? Comprised of the 3 different 800-point sections. Okay? The new SAT has no essay score attached to it, so there's just the 2 sections, reading and writing, and math. We'll talk about both of those a lot more in just a second. Both of those are 800 points. Now the total amount of points is 1,600. That's what your composite score is going to be out of. Okay? We've talked about this before too, but I'm going to say it again repeatedly. Colleges take your highest section scores. Does that make sense? Most schools don't do anything based on composite scores. They'll do it based on section scores. So if you take the SAT 3 times, they'll get your highest reading score and your highest math score, and they might not be on the same test, and that's okay, and they'll consider those 2 highest scores, regardless of when you took that. Does that make sense? They're not going to look at the composite score and go, oh, well, this one's high. No, doesn't matter. It's sections. Okay? Good so far? One of the biggest differences between the old SAT and the new one is the wrong answer penalty. In previous years on the old SAT, you got dinged if you answered something wrong, which has a direct impact on your testing strategy, right? If you don't know the answer to a question, but you know you're going to get dinged, you're going to get points taken off if you answer it wrong, what are you going to do? You're going to leave it blank, right? On the new SAT, you do not lose points for wrong answers. You do not lose points for wrong answers. This pleases me. And it has a direct impact on your testing strategy. Do you see that? Now if you come across a question you don't know the answer to, what are you going to do? You guess. You do not leave any question blank on this SAT. Did everybody hear what I just said? That's rule number 1 of SAT test taking strategy. You make sure every single question is filled in with something. You at least have a 25% chance of getting the answer right. Better than 0. So we'll go with that. You write something in there. And we're going to talk about strategies for how to hopefully maybe whittle your answers down and maybe get it to within 2 that could be right. And then you got a 50% chance of getting it right. Do you kind of see what I'm saying? But there will be questions on here, and I'm going to be super real with you guys throughout this whole, well, semester, but especially with test prep. There will be questions you will see on here that you will have no idea what the answer is. I promise you. And it's going to rattle you. And you're going to start feeling like you're failing this thing, just watching the time tick away, failing my SAT. Like that's not But literally, you're going to be sitting there thinking that, because everybody does at some point. You might even hit 2 or 3 in a row that you have no idea what the answer is, and you're just guessing, kids, and that's okay. That's normal. That's all right. Don't let it rattle you, okay? You just got to kind of like breathe in, breathe out, and then just move on, okay, and try and eliminate that from your memory, because it tends to freak people out a little bit, okay? But if that happens, you just guess, and you move on and don't waste time, okay? But always make sure that you're filling something in. The last two differences are based on the math section. So on the old SAT, you were allowed to have a calculator for the entire test, which was kind of like a nice little security blanket for most kids. Calculators make you feel better, because it does make you feel better. On the new SAT, there's one section in the math portion where you're not allowed to use a calculator. You have to put them away, and that tends to rattle people too. Because obviously math is a lot easier and a lot faster if you can use a calculator, and you cannot use it during this portion of the test, which, can I get, we're going to have a nice talk today. Can I get a quick show of hands for how many of you do math right now or ever in your high school career without a calculator? Okay, good. Good. So the rest of you, you're allowed to use a calculator the entire time? Most math classes in high school let you use a calculator the entire time. Very rarely do teachers say, like, okay, let's try it without. This would be the time, and I'm going to say this with great respect for my colleagues, and if you say it politely and respectfully, this would be the time for you to maybe bring up to your math teachers, hey, is there going to be a time maybe we can practice without a calculator? Because there's a section on the SAT without one, and it might be handy to practice. Does that kind of make sense? If you walk into the SAT and that's the first time you've ever not used a calculator, you're going to freak out. So you're going to have to practice this without a calculator, okay? And the person to help you with that, in this case, I'm really sorry, is not me. I don't do that. Amy doesn't have that. No. So if you're looking for like, hey, can you toss me a couple problems that I can work on without a calculator, I will pat your back, I'll sit with you, I'll give you words of encouragement, but no, I can't do that. Your math teachers can't. And again, if you ask politely and respectfully, they should be able to give you some practice questions that you can do without a calculator and maybe even help you with it, okay? But this is something you might want to practice. The last part is the part that I obviously have like a philosophical issue with, which you may as well, which is the level to which we are testing your math capabilities. On the old SAT, the math portion, the content portion, went through Algebra 2. On the new SAT, it goes through Pre-Calc. So for my juniors, which is actually most of them, who are not in Pre-Calc, you're in something else. Algebra 2, geometry, algebra, A, B, C, D, whatever that happens to be, stats, math studies, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of different things that you could be in that aren't Pre-Calc by your junior year. You're going to be seeing potentially years worth of math content that you have never seen before in your life. And they're going to be on this test. For those of you that are in Pre-Calc, even my kids who are in like AP Pre-Calc, and you're doing what College Board says they want you to be doing, the test that you're taking is in April. Which means that you still have 2 months worth of content that you just haven't gotten to yet in class that will be on this test. Does everybody kind of see what I'm saying there? Is this fair? Is this ethical? Is this morally right? Clearly, no. But this is like where we're at, okay? So this is where also we're gonna have to start talking about like strategies in terms of if you come across a math problem with a symbol on it that you don't know, which means you can't even tell what the question is asking you to do. That was me in my SAT. I never made it to Pre-Calc because we only had 3 years of math when I was in high school, and I went through Algebra 2 my sophomore year, so I was on the advanced track. So I did geometry freshman year, algebra sophomore year, and then my junior year you could either go Pre-Calc or you could go math studies, which was like, math studies was like the math class for dumb kids. The kids that don't do math. Hi, dumb kid. I don't do math. So I took math studies, which was kind of like my college math class, which is where you like learn how to hang a picture on the wall and how to balance your checkbook, and so it was like, and it was awesome, and I got like a 99% in that too, and it was great, but I never took Pre-Calc. and then I went and took the SAT. And I vividly remember, though I think this is all I even remember about the test at all, getting the math portion and seeing symbols on there, like a number and a symbol and a number, and I was like, the hell is that? I didn't even know what the symbol meant. You know what I mean? And I remember thinking like, this is fun. So how do I even, be? I just moved on, because there's literally no way that I can even answer that question. And there were several in a row, all asking me things that I've never seen in my life. So I just kind of and I think I got some of them right by accident, you know what I mean? But then most of them I'm pretty sure I got wrong, and my math score was obscenely low. But hey, look at me, I still have a college education and I'm a functioning adult-ish, you know what I mean? So this is a thing that you can do. But you're gonna have to get right with not knowing perhaps large portions of the math section and just guessing and moving on. Okay? Like I said, we'll talk about some test taking strategies, but for the math portion especially, you either have the content knowledge or you don't for the most part. You either had exposure to these concepts or you haven't. So we're gonna kind of roll with that. Okay? What you can't do, this is kind of like a psychological game. Okay? What you can't do is get to the math portion and assume that you suck and start to get down on yourself, because that will impact how you take the entire rest of the test. You kind of have to get hard inside, you know what I mean? You gotta get okay with sucking on some stuff and be okay anyway. And that's kind of, it's psychology, mental strength. Meditation, we'll do plenty of that, don't you worry. Okay, so these are the big differences between the old one and the new one. And then if you look over on the right, all the words over there, you can see the sections. So there's an evidence-based reading and writing section. Instead of just calling it reading and writing, they're calling it evidence-based, which should tell you something right there. Okay, this is going to be a major component of this section. One of the biggest components, especially on the reading portion, is words in context. This is vocab, kids. The SAT is very vocab heavy. Anybody do vocab in English? Oh, so not many. I thought most English teachers did vocab, no? Oh, they knew. Okay, well, even for classes that do vocab, a lot of times high school vocabulary is not what this is. We've discussed my education and my background. And by the way, I'm a bookworm. Anybody in here else a big reader? For pleasure? I love to read. It's been my thing since I was a kid. And hey, don't you judge me. And don't judge anybody who doesn't like it either. I don't think that's a right or a wrong thing. It's just a personal preference thing. I really dig reading, which means my vocabulary is extensive. Sorry, it just is. Not to brag, but it's huge. I can do Jeopardy and I'm down. But there are words on these practice SAT tests that I have never seen before. And if you know anything about my vocab, you should know that's kind of surprising. And that should also indicate the level of the vocabulary to you, okay? They're gonna say this is high school level vocabulary. I guarantee you, it is not. It is college level vocabulary, in some case, master's level vocabulary. There are gonna be words on here you have never seen before, but they're still gonna ask you to define them, okay? Which is why we're gonna start using things like context clues. You remember this from 3rd grade? You haven't really needed to figure out what a word means in a really long time because you have a phone. You know what I mean? If you come across a word you don't know, just type it in and it'll define it for you. That's totally fine. You won't have that on the SAT. So we're gonna have to think of old school strategies to figure out what words mean. Context clues, root words, right? What does this word look like? We're gonna talk about all of that kind of stuff to figure out what this word means, because there are legit questions on the SAT that say the most likely definition of this word in line 4 is bang, 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 and they give you 4 choices. And these words are huge. Okay, so we're gonna do a lot of vocab in here for test prep, by the by, just so you know. Not teaching you vocab words and asking you to memorize them, because I think that's kind of useless, because unless I'm guaranteeing you they're gonna be on the test, you're memorizing a lot of words you're not gonna need to know. But how to figure out what words mean. Okay, and that's a skill, so we're gonna be teaching you that. The other portion here is command of evidence. Not only are they going to ask you, in line 4, what is the most likely meaning of this? They're going to ask you why. In line 4, what does the author mean when he says this? And you say, oh, he means that. And they're going to go, how do you know that? what else in the reading shows you